name's Gina also, and thank you for having me today. I'm going to be talking about leadership and happiness and how that can help you make a really good, thriving team, or make your business succeed, or help within your detachment or your sporting team. So it goes into all walks of life, and I'm sure we've all met the positive people within our lives and they're great to be around, and we've also met the negative people, the emotional vampires. And before I go into my story about my life and how I got to talking about happiness and leadership and how it works and finding my way forward within business and my adventurous lifestyle that I now live, I'd like to just share a little story. So I used to run a company called Military Workout. How did I get here then? With the privilege to speak to people about leadership and happiness. I started my life, my working life, with the army. I joined the Army Cadets at a young age and just had an affinity to it. I loved it. I loved everything about it. I loved the marching, I loved the field craft, I loved the first aid, I loved being wet and muddy and all that good stuff which we picture the military to be. I also rose through the cadet ranks and got to staff sergeant and really enjoyed it. So it was a natural progression for me after my A-levels to join the army. I joined the Royal Signals as an engineer and I absolutely loved it. My first 5 years I'd served in over 35 different countries, or been to over 35 different countries, into every conflict or peacekeeping mission within that time frame. And that was because I was in the regiment, which was classed as Globetrotters, which lived up to his name. I went everywhere. It was brilliant. I did what I wanted to do. I joined the army to see the world, and I did. Are in the Green Army, as I call it. I always wanted to help, and that's what I kind of joined to do, to help, to provide service, to be of worth to society. So when I'd be in Bosnia, for example, I was looking at things to do which were slightly out of my remit. I was quite lucky because I got to travel everywhere because I was one of the only techs in theatre, so we had to keep the communications going. And I was asked if I wanted to go to an orphanage, so I used to go to this orphanage quite regularly, and it was really nice to engage with them. The children, you know, they didn't have a lot, and we turn up. And on one particular occasion, I'd managed to get a box of Twix bars, and these Twix bars went like a flash. And the next thing I heard a little lad saying, me, miss. And I looked down, and his face was covered in chocolate. And I was like, you've had one? And he was like, no miss. So obviously for his cheek and the fact he'd been away and ate it so quickly and came back, he obviously got another one. And it's stories like that that really make me know that in small ways I did make a difference when I was out there in theatre doing my job. Life was going well, and then November 2019 arrived. I'd been diagnosed with PTSD, and at the same time, before or after, I can't really remember, my brother was diagnosed with stage 4 bowel cancer. All efforts went obviously onto him and getting him better, and things were going okay, treatment had started, and then the tidal wave came over of COVID in 2020, and the world stopped. any situation that was bad before just got even worse. And we've all lived through it, so we all know what happened. And I used to cope, and I found that I cope all the time by doing crazy stuff. You know, cycling across Scotland or kayaking down rivers for charity. Different things. That's what makes me happy, gives me purpose, keeps me alive. And on one particular occasion, I'd been to see my brother. He was quite bad at this stage, and I was cycling along the wonderful Wirral coast with the Mersey to my right, and the next thing, I was struck. I was knocked off my bike and ended up in A&E. As every cyclist knows, the first thing we always look at is the bike, and my bike was destroyed, and I wasn't in the best of ways. I went to A&E and I was okay. I didn't have any broken bones, just really badly bruised and a few stitches and cuts and that type of thing. The next day, my brother died. And I did what I try to always do, is try to find a positive somewhere. And that positive was, I was going to try and raise some money for a small cancer charity that helped him. And I was going to try from there to set up an art foundation in my brother's name, which would help cancer patients to relieve them from the stresses, to get them away from that awful disease and thinking about it. So we set out on a quest of 100 miles a week for a year, walking, running or cycling, which was a little bit difficult without a bike. At that stage, I was still under Help for Heroes, and I mentioned it to Help for Heroes. And they said, let's see what we can do. Now, I'm the type of person who doesn't really get charity. I never thought I'd have charity. I never thought I needed help from a charity. The next couple of days, I just carried on, not cycling, but running. It was taking its toll because I'm getting a little bit old. And I continued to do my quest. Safa then called, and I had a brilliant chat with a guy called Graham, caseworker, and I didn't think much of it. He said he would try and get you a bike. The next thing, a couple of weeks went, a couple more 100 miles under my belt, and I got a phone call from Graham again. What bike do you want? So, with the bike in hand, I then went out and completed my task of 100 miles a week for a whole year, cycling, running, walking 5,200 miles, and raised £10,000 for the cancer charity, and set up the art foundation in my brother's name. What I hope you can see from today's talk is that if you are an effective leader that's happy and positive, that disseminates across your team, and it makes a better workforce or culture. And with a better culture, it just makes better productivity and makes people want to have less duvet days and want to come to work. And actually, it starts to feel not like work if you've got a really good culture.